Jordan, and I run a really small tour company called LA Woman Tours. And recently I had the pleasure of leading a Jean Harlow tour where I was kind of going through the sites of her career and her life. And I did that because, first of all, I like seeing where things happen, but also I was trying to understand her on a deeper level. So when I decided to put an actual tour together, I thought, well, maybe other people would want to come along with me. So it was my way of saying, hey, I'm trying to find out more about Jean Harlow. Do you want to come with me? And so I started putting the tour together. The problem was I didn't know if there were a lot of other Harlow fans out there who would be willing to buy tickets. So when I woke up the morning of the tour, I couldn't have been more excited when I looked at the ticket sales and I realized we were sold out. And Daryl Rooney, hi Daryl. In Hollywood, had graciously accepted my invitation to be my co-host, and I couldn't wait to tell him that we had sold out. And I realized Jean Harlow does have a lot of fans, and she still matters. And so I got to thinking, well, why does she still matter? And what is her place in history, and what is her legacy? And so I figured to do that, you kind of have to look at her in the context of her era. And to me, Jean Harlow kind of emerges at a pivotal point in American history. So she's born in 1911, right as the Edwardian period is ending, and the women kind of look like that. And then she comes of age in the 1920s. And I have a couple of boring stats, but they are kind of important, and I will go somewhere with this. So in the 1920 census, for the first time in American history, there are more people living in the cities than in rural areas. In 1920, the American population was 106,466,000, but by 1929, it had grown to 121,770,000. In 1920, the gross national product in the United States was 73 billion. By 1929, it grew to 104 billion. And in 1900, before she was born, there were 4.7 million workers, or factory workers, and by 1920, that grew to 9 million, plus an additional 3 million more were working in jobs related to manufacturing. So we can see a real growth as she's growing up in the 1920s. But another innovation comes about in the 1920s, and the movies become popular, and it makes complete sense. And there's a social impact that is almost hard to calculate now, because the movies, if you think about it, the people on the East Coast and the people on the West Coast and everyone in between are watching the same thing. And it's like a mass tune-in for the United States, and then it starts to go to other parts of the world. And so for the first time, the world gets a little smaller. And then in 1929, with the stock market crash, well, the movies become even more popular as the 1930s dawn, because people are looking for that escape, because we all know what happens with the Great Depression. And this is where Jean Harlow and her platinum hair emerge on the scene. And the important thing to remember is that no one looked like her. She was new. Now, in Jean's era, or right before Jean's era, vampy type actresses look like this. This is Theda Bara and her classic role Cleopatra. So you can see she's beautiful, she's dark, and she's mysterious, and there's a whole mystique about her. Now, in the 1920s, the movies have such a social impact on everyone, but not least of all women. Women, they look like that, and then we go to that, and so women began wearing makeup, they began changing their hair, they began cutting their hair, their clothes changed. I mean, people didn't walk around like that, but you know what I mean, like their skirts got shorter, and just a few years before, they would have been considered nothing less of a tramp for doing that. So I got to thinking, why this big change? And then we also have Clara Bow, who I love. Again, another dark beauty, and she was kind of the quintessential 1920s woman, and for good reason, great actress and wonderful, wonderful beauty. And she was kind of the quintessential woman, and she worked at Paramount Pictures just down the street. So why is Jean Harlow in such stark contrast? Well, as you can see, quite a change from the 1920s to the 1930s. Everything is white. Her hair is white, her skin is white, her clothes are white. When you put her in a white set, everything is high glamour for the 1930s. We're going to escape the Depression. And she is one of the ways